So there's a brother and sister, Julie and Mark,
Right.
and they are on summer vacation together in France.
Mm-hmm.
One night, they're staying alone in this little cabin near the beach, and they decide, just out of nowhere, that it would be interesting and fun if they tried making love.
Yeah, which is just, I mean, right away, whoa.
Right. But wait. So they use two forms of birth control, like a pill and a condom, just to be absolutely 100% safe.
Okay.
And they keep it a complete secret. They enjoy it. It actually brings them closer together. But they decide, you know what, we're never going to do this again.
Right. It was a one-time thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, if you're listening to this, your gut instantly drops.
Yeah.
Like the moment I said the premise, before you even finish the whole story, your stomach probably tightened up.
Yeah.
You know, absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt that what they did is wrong.
Oh, completely. It's an instant physical reaction.
But then imagine a researcher sits across from you and pushes you to explain exactly why it's wrong.
Yeah.
And suddenly, you can't.
Because every logical argument you'd usually use has been totally neutralized by the story.
Right. You point to the risk of birth defects. But the researcher's like, hey, the story explicitly states they use two forms of birth control.
Yeah.
So then you pivot and you point to the emotional damage, the psychological scarring that must inevitably follow.
But the researcher just calmly taps the page and says, well, the story clearly states they're fine. It brought them closer. They have zero regrets.
Exactly. The scenario was designed specifically by Jonathan Haidt to strip you of all your logical ammunition.
And that feeling, that exact moment of being completely stripped of your logic, that reveals the core premise of what we are unpacking today.
Yeah.
The verdict in your mind came first. It was instantaneous. The reasons you scrambled to find afterward, those are just backfill.
Today we are taking a really deep dive into a stack of research on moral psychology, specifically looking at Haidt's groundbreaking book, The Righteous Mind.
It's such a wild read.
It really is. We are basically going to completely dismantle the way you think about your own moral convictions. Our mission for this deep dive is to figure out why good people are so completely hopelessly divided by politics and religion.
And why it feels so impossible to argue someone out of their beliefs.
Yes, because it turns out we fundamentally misunderstand how the human brain actually processes morality.
We truly do. And, to understand how deep that misunderstanding goes, we have to really look at that phenomenon you just introduced.
Right. Let's step into the room where this actually happens. Imagine we are in a psychology lab, present tense. The fluorescent lights are buzzing overhead.
It's that sterile, slightly uncomfortable lab setting.
Yeah, exactly. You're sitting across from a researcher. You just heard that story about Julie and Mark, and your face flushes. You literally feel the heat rising in your cheeks.
Because you're getting frustrated. So frustrated. You stammer. Your hands are waving in the air in sheer frustration. You are this freely educated, articulate adult, and you finally just sputter something like, I don't know, it's just wrong. You just don't do that.
Which is so funny because you're rendered completely speechless by this profound inability to explain verbally what you just know intuitively.
Right. You are experiencing what psychologists call moral dumbfounding.
Yeah.
And the point that lands so heavily here is that your reasoning process is completely disconnected from your moral verdict.
Precisely. The judgment happens in a fraction of a second, and the reasoning is lagging far behind, just desperately trying to catch up.
Like it's running a race it already lost.
Exactly. And to prove that this isn't just about, one specific cultural taboo regarding incest, look at a completely different scenario they use in these exact same studies.
Oh, the dog story.
Yeah, the dog story.
Yeah.
So imagine a family. Their beloved dog is killed by a car right in front of their house.
Yeah.
Tragic, right?
Yeah, super sad.
But then they've heard the dog meat is delicious.
Oh, man, here we go. So they bring the carcass inside, they cut it up, they cook it, and they eat it in secret for dinner.
God, it's so gross.
It is. But nobody sees them. No one is harmed. The dog was already dead, so there is zero cruelty or suffering inflicted. Yet, when people hear this story, they still condemn it immediately and intensely.
Okay, I have to jump in here because I really struggled with the mechanics of this when I was reading the source material.
Sure, what part?
Well, if there is literally zero harm in these stories, if the researchers deliberately constructed these scenarios so there are absolutely zero victims, why do people still violently insist that it's morally wrong? Like, what is actually happening in the brain?
What's happening is that when the conscious mind cannot find a real victim to justify its disgust, it literally invents one.
Wait, really? They just make someone up.
Yes, people in these studies will suddenly claim, well, the family will probably get sick from eating the dog. Or they'll say, someone might look through the window and be traumatized.
That's wild. They're just grasping at straws.
They invent wild, highly improbable consequences just to justify their initial wave of disgust. Because, and this is the core idea, intuitions come first, strategic reasoning second.
Yeah, intuitions come first, strategic reasoning second.
Exactly. The feeling of disgust is the intuition. It hits fast and hard. The invented victim, the convoluted logic. That is just the strategic reasoning trying to validate a feeling that already happened.
It is such a bizarre sensation to experience. Like, it feels so weird and uncomfortable to have your own brain frantically searching for logic that simply doesn't exist.
Oh, absolutely.
I was reading this and thinking, it's exactly like staring at a computer screen when a video freezes, and you just see that little buffering icon spinning endlessly in the center of the screen.
That is a perfect way to describe it.
Your brain is literally buffering. It's searching the hard drive for a rational argument that isn't there, completely refusing to accept that the emotional reaction is the only thing running the show.
And the brain refuses to accept it because we have this deeply ingrained cultural myth. We've been taught since the Enlightenment that we are these highly rational creatures who carefully think our way to our moral conclusions.
Right, like we're all philosophers or judges?
Exactly. We believe we weigh the evidence, consider the principles, and then arrive at a verdict. But the buffering icon proves that we don't. We feel our way there, and then we try to think of a reason why.
It is a profoundly humbling realization when you catch yourself doing it in real time.
It really is. Which brings us to, honestly, the most perfect metaphor for this dynamic.
Oh, the elephant.
Yeah.
Let's drop right into this scene.
Go for it.
Okay, so you are sitting atop a massive 9,000-pound elephant. Just picture that. You can feel the heavy, muscular shifting of this beast beneath you as it leans to the left, getting ready to take a step.
It's just this unstoppable force.
Right. And you are sitting up on its neck, holding little reins in your hands. You represent conscious reasoning.
The right.
Yes, the rider. You look down at this incredible animal, you pull the reins, and you honestly think you are in charge. But the reality is, the rider is just a servant. The rider only steers where the elephant already leans.
Which is such a blow to our egos.
Seriously. The elephant represents the automatic, intuitive, emotional part of your brain that has been reacting to the environment for millions of years.
Because the rider is an evolutionary latecomer. The elephant has been running the show for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
And we can see exactly who is boss in this brilliant, slightly unnerving hypnotism study conducted by Thalia Wheatley.
Oh, the trigger word study. This one blew my mind.
It's so crazy. So subjects are brought into a lab and hypnotized to feel a sudden flash of disgust whenever they read a specific, completely neutral word.
Just a normal word.
Yeah. For half the subjects, the trigger is the word often. For the other half, it's the word take.
Okay.
So later, when they are completely out of the trance and totally conscious, they're asked to read a story about a guy named Dan.
And Dan's just a normal guy, right?
Totally. Dan is a student council president. He's organizing discussions between the faculty and the students. It is a completely innocuous, boring story.
Right.
But if that story contains their specific trigger word, say, Dan often organizes discussions, the elephant leans immediately.
Because they've been hypnotized to feel disgust at that word.
Exactly. And the subjects judge Dan as morally wrong. They say he's up to something, that he's a bad guy, that he's a popularity-seeking phony, even though he literally did nothing wrong in the text.
Oh.
Their gut felt disgust, so their conscious mind had to invent a reason to make Dan a villain.
Okay, but wait, if the elephant, like our automatic emotional intuition, is making all the calls and running the show, what is the point of this highly evolved rider?
That's a great question.
Like, why did evolution even bother giving us this massive prefrontal cortex and this incredible capacity for complex logic if it's just along for the ride?
Well, that is the million-dollar question, isn't it? The rider is not there to act as a king or a philosopher. The rider is there to serve the elephant. It evolved to be extremely useful to the elephant's social survival. Humans are intensely social creatures,
Yeah, our survival depended on it.
Exactly. We had to navigate incredibly complex social dynamics within our tribes. So the rider anticipates where the elephant wants to go and paves the way.
Ah, I see.
It helps the elephant interact with the other elephants by finding socially acceptable justifications for its movements. The rider isn't a master, it's a highly skilled employee. Because, say it with me.
Intuitions come first, strategic reasoning second.
Exactly.
So the writer isn't a master at all. It's more like a lawyer desperately forced to defend a client who has already committed the act.
Yeah.
The elephant has already made the decision, already leaned, already reacted. And the poor writer, the lawyer, is just scrambling to put together a legal brief to make it look acceptable to the rest of the world.
And that lawyer is very, very good at their job. So good, in fact, that we rarely realize we are being led by our gut. We just admire our own legal brief.
Right, we read our own brief and think, wow, I'm so smart and logical.
We assume that because the arguments are so well written and logical, they must have been the reason the decision was made in the first place.
Let's take that lawyer analogy and push it even further into the public sphere, because this is where the source material gets genuinely unsettling.
Oh, the press secretary.
Yes. Step into the White House briefing room with me. Present tense.
Okay, I'm there.
The room is packed. The flashbulbs are popping, reporters are shouting over each other, and the press secretary steps up to the podium. Now, the president, who represents our inner elephant, has just done something completely inexplicable.
As presidents sometimes do.
Right. Something that makes absolutely no logical sense. But the press secretary doesn't step up to the microphone, take a deep breath, and say, wow, that was a huge mistake by the president. Let me go back to the Oval Office and rethink our entire policy.
Never. That never happens.
No, they instantly spin it. They find a way to make it sound like a deliberate genius strategy. They are brilliant at justifying, but absolutely useless at deciding what the policy should actually be.
That is exactly what our conscious reasoning does. It functions as an in-house press secretary. The emotional dog wags its rational tail.
The emotional dog wags its rational tail. I love that phrasing.
It's so accurate. Look at Dan Ariely's famous studies on cheating.
Oh, these are fascinating.
Yeah, he sets up these elaborate experiments where people are given a math test and paid for every correct answer. In some conditions, he gives them plausible deniability and a sense of invisibility.
Like they don't have to turn the paper in.
Right. They get to put their answer sheets in a shredder in the back of the room and just report their own scores verbally to get paid.
Oh, wow. So what happens?
Well, the vast majority of people will cheat. But here is the fascinating part. They only cheat just a little bit.
They don't just say they got a perfect score and take all the money.
Exactly. They don't claim a perfect score. The press secretary inside our minds finds a justification so we can cheat just enough to get some extra cash. But not so much that we can't still honestly believe we are highly moral, honest people.
That is why.
We'll literally spin our own unethical behavior to ourselves.
But then, if we know our brains are just spinning PR, if we are aware of this tendency to justify our own behavior, shouldn't holding people accountable fix this?
You'd think so, right?
Yeah, if you know you have to explain yourself to someone else, shouldn't that force the press secretary to actually care about the objective truth?
It feels like common sense that accountability would breed objectivity. But the research of Philip Tetlock reveals something entirely different and, frankly, a bit alarming.
Oh, what did he find?
Tetlock found that when you hold people accountable, when they know they have to explain their decisions to an audience whose views are unknown, it usually just increases what he calls confirmatory thought.
Confirmatory thought, meaning what?
Meaning we do not try harder to be objectively right. We try harder to look right.
Oh, wow. Yeah, we just worked the press secretary overtime to find better, more airtight justifications for what the elephant already wanted to do. Accountability doesn't make us objective truth seekers. It makes us better politicians.
So it just forces us to build stronger defensive walls around our intuitions.
Exactly, because intuitions come first, strategic reasoning second.
Man, it is terrifying to sit with the reality of how effective this is. Our inner press secretary is so incredibly good at its job, so persuasive, that we completely buy our own spin.
Totally.
We don't even realize we're lying to ourselves. We just read the press release and think, yep, that sounds exactly like something a good, rational person like me would do.
And this self-deception, it's not a bug in the system. It is a crucial feature for our social survival.
Really? How so?
Well, if we didn't believe our own spin, we wouldn't be very convincing to others when we try to persuade them. The press secretary has to wholeheartedly believe the lie in order to sell the lie.
Ah, I see.
If you show weakness, if you show doubt in your own moral righteousness, the reporters in the briefing room, meaning the other people in your social group, will tear you apart. You'll lose status.
Okay, let's look at how this incredibly defensive posture plays out when we process new information.
Oh, this is a great pivot.
So imagine a person sitting at a desk, staring down at a little medical test strip they just licked.
Okay.
The saliva is drying on a little piece of paper. They've been told by a researcher that if it changes color, they have a serious, potentially dangerous enzyme deficiency.
That's a high-stress situation.
Exactly. So the time elapses. The strip doesn't change color. They sit there. They wait. They stare at it. And then they mutter to themselves, well, my mouth was unusually dry today.
Or I did just drink some water a little while ago.
Yes, they don't accept the result. They instantly start looking for flaws in the test itself. They're acting as a lawyer, trying to poke holes in the opposing counsel's argument, not a scientist seeking the objective truth of their medical reality.
This perfectly illustrates a concept from the psychologist Tom Gilovitz. He pointed out the profound difference between two fundamental questions our minds ask when evaluating evidence.
Right.
Think about the psychological weight of the word must versus the word can.
Okay, must versus can.
If you tell a toddler they must eat ice cream, they will instantly rebel. It feels like a command. It's the verbal handcuffs of must.
Yeah, nobody likes being told what they must do.
But if you tell them they can eat ice cream, suddenly it's an opportunity. And our reasoning works the exact same way. When we encounter information that supports our side, our elephant leans toward it and the writer asks, can I believe it?
Can I believe it?
Right. We just need one tiny piece of pseudo-evidence, one flimsy justification, one sympathetic study to grant ourselves permission to believe what we already want to believe.
But when we look at the other side...
Exactly. When we look at evidence that threatens our worldview or our political identity, the writer asks a very different question. Must I believe it?
Must I believe it?
Yes. And when we ask that, we only need to find one tiny flaw, one dry mouth excuse, one slightly questionable methodology to completely dismiss the entire mountain of evidence.
Wait, but then surely high intelligence protects us from this. Like, this is the assumption we always make, right?
Oh, absolutely. We love to think that.
That people with high IQs, people who are highly educated, they must be better at seeing through this cognitive trap and evaluating evidence objectively.
That is perhaps the most brutal realization in this entire stack of research.
Brace yourself.
Yeah, the researcher David Perkins dropped an absolute bomb on this idea. He conducted studies on people of various ages and intelligence levels, asking them to think about social issues and provide arguments for their positions.
Okay, and what did he find?
He found that IQ is indeed the biggest predictor of how well people can argue. But here is the catch. It only predicts the number of my-side arguments they can generate. Yeah, high IQ does not make you more objective. It does not make you more willing to see the other side's valid points. It simply makes you a much more formidable lawyer for your own elephant.
So smart people just make better excuses.
Basically, yes. Smart people are just better at answering the question, can I believe it? By generating incredibly complex, sophisticated justifications for their initial gut feelings. Reasoning takes you exactly where you want to go because intuitions come first, strategic reasoning second.
And, you know, the internet is the ultimate enabler of this.
Oh, 100%.
The internet is basically a massive global engine designed to answer the question, can I believe it? No matter how absurd your intuition is, no matter how fringe your belief, you can type it into a search engine, and within 0.3 seconds, you will be handed a beautifully formatted website.
A whole YouTube documentary.
Yes, and a community of people who agree with you. It is the greatest press secretary tool ever invented.
Exactly. It provides infinite ammunition for the writer to defend the elephant. But, you know, to truly understand why our elephants lean in such vastly different directions, especially across political and cultural lines, we have to look at the environment where these intuitions evolved.
Right, which takes us out of the lab and into the real world.
Yeah.
Let's walk the humid, bustling streets of Recife, Brazil.
Okay, picture it.
Present tense. You approach a lower-class worker and you tell them a story. You say, a woman's national flag was getting old and ragged, so she cut it up into rags and used it to clean her bathroom.
Okay, pretty disrespectful.
Right. The worker hears this and is instantly offended. Their elephant reacts with strong disgust. They tell you the act is universally wrong, that she should be punished.
Which makes sense.
Yet, you take that exact same story, that exact same harmless taboo violation, and you walk onto a pristine Ivy League campus in Pennsylvania. You tell it to a wealthy American college student.
And what did they say?
The student barely shrugs. They say, well, it's her flag. She bought it. She did it in private. Nobody was hurt. It's weird, but it's not morally wrong.
This contrast introduces one of the most critical concepts in modern psychology. The American college student represents what researchers call the weird mind.
W-E-I-R-D.
Yes, WEIRD is an acronym. Western, educated, industrialized, rich, and democratic.
So Western, educated, industrialized, rich, democratic.
Right. For a long time, psychologists assumed that human morality was essentially universal, and they based this assumption entirely on studies conducted on weird populations, mostly their own college undergrads.
Right, because that's who's on campus to take the surveys.
Exactly. But as researchers like Richard Schweder discovered, weird minds are actually the global statistical outlier. The weirder you are, the more you see a world full of separate, autonomous objects and individuals.
Okay, so it's all about the individual.
Yes. You believe the fundamental goal of morality is to protect those individuals from harm and oppression. Period.
But most of the globe doesn't see it that way.
Not at all. Throughout most of human history, cultures like the Hua of New Guinea or the Ilongot in the Philippines or the working-class populations in Brazil or India, they bind ethics to community, to roles, to purity, and to sanctity.
So morality isn't just about harm.
Exactly. It's about maintaining the social order and the spiritual purity of the group.
Wait, but then if the weird way of thinking, this hyper-focus on protecting individuals from harm, is the global statistical outlier, how did it become the default assumption of modern psychology and philosophy?
It's a great question.
It just seems incredibly arrogant for Western science to define universal human nature based almost entirely on the psychological profiles of American college sophomores taking a psych class for course credit.
It was incredibly arrogant, and it led to a massive blind spot. Western weird philosophers like Immanuel Kant or John Stuart Mill built entire, incredibly complex ethical systems designed to govern autonomous individuals interacting in a marketplace.
Right.
They tried to reduce all of human morality to a single principle, either maximizing utility or following universal rules of justice.
But in doing so,
they completely ignored the elephant. They built ethical systems for the writer. They ignored the fact that intuitions come first, strategic reasoning second. And they completely ignored the fact that human intuition is sensitive to far more than just harm and fairness.
which brings us to the menu metaphor. Let's sit down at a restaurant.
Oh, I love this part of the book.
It's brilliant. So you sit down at a restaurant where the chef is preparing a meal specifically designed for your righteous mind. Present tense. You take a bite of a dish, and it is seasoned heavily with the flavor of care.
Care, like compassion.
Right. It appeals to your desire to protect the vulnerable. Then you take another bite, and it tastes like fairness. It appeals to your sense of justice and proportionality.
Okay.
But you look at the menu, and you realize those are only two options. The human moral palate actually has 6 distinct flavors, 6 moral taste buds.
Care, fairness, loyalty, authority, sanctity, and liberty.
Yes. These are the foundations of our moral intuitions, honed by evolution to help us survive in complex social groups.
Let's break down why we actually evolved these specific taste buds, because it's fascinating.
Let's do it.
So care evolved in response to the challenge of raising vulnerable children. We feel instant compassion for the weak.
Makes total sense.
Fairness evolved to help us reap the benefits of two-way partnerships without getting exploited by cheaters. Loyalty evolved to help us form cohesive coalitions to compete with other groups.
Right. Tribe versus tribe.
Authority evolved to help us navigate hierarchical social structures and maintain order. Sanctity evolved from the emotion of disgust, initially to avoid pathogens and parasites, but eventually it scaled up to bind groups together around sacred objects or ideas.
Oh, interesting.
And finally, liberty evolved in response to the challenge of living in small groups with would-be alpha male tyrants. It's our drive to band together to take down bullies.
Okay, so if we all have these 6 evolutionary taste buds, this perfectly explains the political divide.
It really does.
Yeah. Because when you look at the political left, they cook almost exclusively with 2 or 3 of these flavors.
Right.
Left-wing morality relies heavily on care, fairness, and liberty.
Right.
It is highly focused on protecting victims, fighting oppression, and demanding equality. But the political right cooks with all 6 flavors.
They use the whole spice rack.
Exactly. They bring in heavy doses of loyalty.
Yeah.
Think of the reverence for the flag and the military. They use authority respect for parents, elders, and the police. And they rely heavily on sanctity, the importance of religion, sexual purity, and the idea that some things are just sacred.
Yeah.
Wait, but doesn't this mean conservative politicians have a massive built-in structural advantage?
Well,
If they are appealing to a much broader moral palette, while the left is essentially running a restaurant that only serves 2 dishes, shouldn't the right win every time?
it absolutely gives them a structural advantage in messaging. A left-wing politician might focus a policy speech entirely on the foundation of care, talking about safety nets and protecting the marginalized.
Which is powerful but limited.
Right. But a right-wing politician will hit the gut on all 6 receptors. When a conservative politician says, "Are you going to pay for that?" they're directly activating the fairness foundation, specifically the sensitivity to cheaters or free riders.
Oh, wow.
When they stand in front of a flag, they hit loyalty. When they talk about law and order, they hit authority. They are speaking directly to the elephant on multiple frequencies at once.
Because voters are not persuaded by policy white papers or logical arguments from the writer.
Never.
They are persuaded by appeals to their moral intuitions. Because, as always, intuitions come first, strategic reasoning second.
Right.
But does this mean one side of the political spectrum is functionally colorblind to certain wavelengths of human morality?
Exactly what it means.
Like when someone on the left looks at someone on the right, demanding respect for authority or sanctity, do they literally just not process it as a moral argument?
Yes. To a weird, highly educated liberal mind, an appeal to authority or sanctity doesn't look like morality at all. It looks like oppression or ignorance or bigotry.
Because they can't taste it.
They literally cannot taste the moral flavor being offered, so they assume the person offering it must be acting out of malice or stupidity. They don't realize the other person's elephant is just responding to a different evolutionary trigger.
Okay, so let's look at the most powerful evolutionary trigger we possess.
The hive switch.
Yes. Stand in the middle of a packed nightclub. The bass is thumping, it's shaking your chest. Or imagine standing amidst a battalion of soldiers marching in perfect, synchronized unison.
It's an intense feeling.
The bodies move together, sweat is flying, the rhythm takes over, and suddenly the boundaries of the self completely dissolve. You are no longer an individual, you are part of a larger organism. The hive switch flips.
And Jonathan Haidt argues that humans are basically 90% chimp, meaning we are selfish primates obsessed with our own survival and status, but we are 10% bee.
10% B.
Yes. Under the right conditions, we flip into groupish, self-transcendent teams.
This is where we have to talk about Charles Darwin and the concept of group selection. Right?
Yeah. Yes. For a long time, evolutionary biologists focused almost entirely on individual selection, the idea that evolution only cares about the survival of the fittest individual.
The chimp part.
Right, the 90% chimp part of our nature. We are designed to compete, to hoard resources, to survive. But Darwin himself noted that when it comes to humans, the most cohesive, courageous, and cooperative groups generally beat the groups of selfish individualists.
Group selection.
Exactly. If Tribe A is full of selfish individuals who run away from danger, and Tribe B is full of individuals willing to sacrifice themselves for the good of the group, Tribe B is going to wipe out Tribe A.
Without a doubt.
We evolved not just to survive as individuals, but to be fiercely loyal team players competing against other teams. The hive switch is a biological adaptation. It's facilitated by neurochemicals like oxytocin and mirror neurons that allow us to basically sync up with others.
Wait, but then, if this hivishness, this ability to dissolve the self and merge with the group, is the source of all our greatest altruism and heroism-like, the reason someone would jump on a grenade to save their squad, isn't it also the exact mechanism that enables war, tribalism, and genocide?
That is the terrifying paradox of human nature. The exact same biological switch that creates selfless heroes creates brutal, merciless armies.
Wow.
You cannot have the extreme cooperation required to build a civilization without the tribalism required to defend it against other civilizations.
That's heavy. We love the idea of community. Everyone advocates for stronger communities. But we conveniently forget that strong communities almost always require an out-group to contrast against.
Always.
The boundary that binds the in-group together is often defined by their shared opposition to the out-group. We blindly surrender to the hive, we adopt the group's moral matrix without question, because intuitions come first, strategic reasoning second.
Which perfectly explains why religion has been such a permanent fixture in human history.
Oh, let's talk about religion. Imagine it's Sunday morning. Present tense. Colored light filters through stained glass windows. Voices rise in a hymn, a congregation moving, breathing, and singing as one single entity.
It's that hive switch flipping again.
For new atheists like Richard Dawkins, this scene represents a dangerous mind virus. They look at religion and see a parasite that has hijacked the human brain, causing irrational behavior and violence.
Right, Dawkins famously hates it.
But if you look closer through the lens of moral psychology, this isn't a virus at all. This is the ultimate team sport.
This brings us to the profound disagreement between Richard Dawkins' view of religion and the view of Emile Durkheim, who is one of the founders of sociology.
Right, Durkheim.
Dawkins looks at religion as a failure of the writer. He sees irrational beliefs and concludes that religion is just a cognitive error. But Durkheim saw it completely differently.
How so?
Durkheim saw that society emerged organically as people found ways to bind themselves together to suppress their own selfish, chimp-like tendencies. Religion and morality aren't parasites. They are the evolutionary biotechnology that built massive human cooperation.
The biotechnology that built cooperation. That's a great way to put it.
Religion solves the free rider problem. It creates shared sacred objects, shared rituals, and a shared moral matrix that allows thousands or even millions of unrelated individuals to trust each other and work together.
Because they're all playing by the same rules.
Exactly. The irrational beliefs aren't a bug. They are a feature. Believing in a shared, invisible reality proves your loyalty to the group in a way that mere rational agreement never could.
So morality binds and blinds. It binds us into these tightly knit matrices, these beautiful cooperative communities, but it totally blinds us to the validity of any other group's matrix.
It does.
If this is true, are we just doomed? Are we permanently stuck in a hyper-partisan world where good people can never hear each other across politics and religion?
It's a dark thought.
Because if I am trapped inside my moral matrix and you are trapped inside yours, and our elephants are just charging at each other while our press secretaries shout talking points, how do we ever make progress?
I are doomed to that fate. We will continue to talk past each other forever unless we finally accept the fundamental rule of human nature. Intuitions come first, strategic reasoning second.
We have to accept it.
As long as you believe that the people who disagree with you are simply stupid or evil or irrational, as long as you believe that they just haven't read the right data or heard the right logical argument, you will remain blind.
Right.
Admitting that we have an elephant steering us and recognizing that other people's elephants are reacting to different moral taste buds is the only way out of the matrix.
I have to raise a deep, honest counterpoint here.
Lay it on me.
I hear all of this, I see the data, but a part of me recoils at it. Does explaining the elephant just excuse tribalism?
That's a common fear.
If we say, well, we are just wired this way by evolution, our intuitions are completely in control, does that give us a free pass to ignore the other side? Does it justify retreating to our hives, throwing our hands up and saying, there is no objective truth, there is no free will, we are just biological machines driven by disgust and loyalty?
It feels fatalistic.
Extremely fatalistic. It feels like a very bleak way to view humanity.
It is a common reaction to feel a sense of fatalism when confronted with this research, but the answer is no, it does not excuse tribalism. In fact, it hands us the only real practical way out of it.
Okay.
Think about it pragmatically. If you realize the writer is just a press secretary, you stop yelling at the press secretary. You stop wasting your breath trying to logic someone out of a position they didn't logic themselves into in the first place.
That makes a lot of sense.
It is not about surrendering to determinism. It is about becoming vastly more effective at persuasion and empathy. When you understand the 6 moral foundations, you stop seeing your political opponents as monsters. You see them as people who are simply prioritizing different evolutionary values than you are.
So to change a mind, to actually reach someone across the divide, you can't just win the argument. You can't just hand them a chart or a peer-reviewed study and expect them to abandon their tribe.
No, never.
You have to talk to the elephant. You have to find the one moral foundation, whether it's care, fairness, liberty, loyalty, that you already share with the person you disagree with, and lean into it.
Yes.
You have to trigger a positive intuition first before their press secretary goes on the defensive.
Exactly. What if the key to world peace, or at least a functioning democracy, isn't about perfectly educating the writer?
What if it isn't about forcing everyone to adopt the exact same logical principles?
What if it is simply about learning how to ride peacefully alongside other elephants, acknowledging that their moral taste buds are just as real and just as deeply rooted in our shared evolutionary history as our own?